All right, welcome back to the channel. Bob Arum says that Terence Crawford is being ducked by Errol Spence and the entire PBC, and that's why they are hunting down the Manny Pacquiao fight. Now, if you believe that, I got something else to sell you, but I do have to say in this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford and really try to give him all of the credit that he deserves for his win over Brook, because I do believe that we owe that to Terence Crawford. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Terence Crawford, with this win over Brook, in my opinion, definitely solidifies him as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, without a doubt. I had a little bit of an asterisk on him before, because I was like, dude, you're going to have to fight somebody. But with this Brook fight, I do believe that this qualifies as him beating a legitimately solid welterweight. And I did a post-fight video after my reaction of the fight last night. I did it right after the fight, so I wanted to make sure I go back because, you know, I had a chance to look at it again and really kind of put it in context, and I want to make sure that I'm being as fair as I possibly can to be to Brook and say, to Terence Crawford, and really and truly give him his full credit for beating that guy, because, dude, he hit him with he knocked him out with essentially a jab from the southpaw position, and, you know, he had to overcome some adversity with Brook, and I like that, man. And going into the fight, I was like, and I still do believe this is going to be the best win or the best fight for Terence Crawford in his career, and I maintain that, right? So, and I thought he was the #1 pound-for-pound before I considered this thing with Brook, him being a step-up fight, and hey, man, he really did pass the test. So just want to really make sure that we give the dude the full credit, because, you know, a lot of times, man, I really do get on Terence Crawford for the quality of opposition that he has. And when he says that he doesn't believe that he'll ever get the credit until he's retired, I don't think that we should have to wait till he's retired to give him his full credit. Brook is a guy that, you know, gave Errol Spence Jr. a very, very tough fight, beat Sean Porter. And hey, man, Terence Crawford is the first person really to run through him like that. And I do think that it is unfair, and it's unfair of me to say that Brook looked shot, because Brook never looked shot before he got in the ring with Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford has been knocking out people left, right, front, and center. So hey, man, I think that I should give him the full 100, truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, benefit of the doubt. You know, not benefit of the doubt, but full credit, you know, for that win. And again, you know, but where does that take us where does that take us, you know, as far as what he's going to do going forward from here? Oh, God, you guys are going to have to excuse me. I really do have allergies, and they are acting up something fierce. Just took my Zyrtec, so hopefully soon my nasals and all that stuff will clear itself up. But, hey, man, you got to keep on pushing forward. So, anyway, like I said, man, it was a really good fight for Terence Crawford. Dude, it was nip and tuck. I had him down 2-1 going into the third round, but he overcame and he stopped that dude. So full credit to Terence Crawford, and ain't no asterisks on it. This dude is the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world, and he's somebody, dude, that is a serious threat to anybody out there in the welterweight division. Errol Spence Jr., Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, and all those guys. And really, dude, he doesn't have to prove to anybody anything else. You know, he's ready for the Terence Crawford fight, obviously. He's ready for, you know, whatever. Now, I'm not going to say that if those fights don't happen, Terence Crawford doesn't have to fight anybody else that's a legitimate contender, because he does. But, you know, but there shouldn't be anybody that's out there wondering whether or not Terence Crawford is legitimately a welterweight, legitimately one of the top guys, you know, one of the top welterweights. I think he's the #2 welterweight after Errol Spence Jr., and that's just because, dude, Errol Spence Jr. has fought better competition than Terence Crawford has. Now, Brook being a solid win, hey, Errol Spence Jr. also has that win over Brook. And if you consider them equally, hey, man, they both got the wins, right? Terence got him out of there a little bit earlier or got him out of there several rounds earlier than Errol Spence Jr. did. So, you know, it is what it is. Errol Spence Jr. still has a win over Sean Porter, still has wins over Lamont Peterson. and, still has 2 of the belts, the WBC and the IBF belt. And he also traveled, we'll just keep the Kell Brook fights being equal for the sake of this video, because like I said, I really want to make sure that the tone is fully congratulatory of Terence Crawford, and it's not like I'm trying to take away from him right after he won this fight, because dude, he really does deserve the credit. And I pushed for him to take the Kell Brook fight, and because I was like, look, dude, this really is one of the best opportunities for him, to show that he can beat a guy that's in the top of that division. Now, what is going to happen afterwards, though? Let's talk about that. And in the aftermath of the fight, Bob Arum was asked, what is next for Terence Crawford? And Bob Arum's response was, hey, look, no, it's not going to be. Basically, he said that there's not going to be an Errol Spence Jr. fight. Is what he said, because he's like, come on, man, Errol Spence is not going to want to fight him. None of these guys over the PBC are going to want to fight him. You saw what he just did. This is one of the best welterweights, since Sugar Ray Leonard. He could have been competitive with Sugar Ray Leonard and these guys. So Errol Spence Jr. won't want to fight him. Okay, so the answer is, Bob, that Errol Spence Jr. won't fight him. You're not trying to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight. So what fight are you trying to make? And then he says, okay, I want the Manny Pacquiao fight. Now, here's another thing, and this is another, time to look at this in the light of Terence Crawford and give Terence Crawford his full credit. Look, and this is a little bit of a change. Well, it's not a change in position, but let me just recognize this as I think being fair, right? Terence Crawford definitely deserves a Manny Pacquiao fight. Without a doubt. If Terence Crawford, there's nobody that Manny Pacquiao can fight that deserves that fight more than Terence Crawford, right? It's for Manny Pacquiao, it's an equally viable option for him to fight Errol Spence Jr. or to fight Terence Crawford, because truth be told, I believe that the pay-per-views for Manny Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford is really going to be just as good. If it's not as good, it's going to be right there with the fight between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. I mean, everybody knows Errol Spence Jr. Everybody knows Terence Crawford. And that's just the truth of it, right? So if we were not looking at, trying to pull in the numbers and, who's going to make the most money on pay-per-view and who's going to do all that stuff, and you really do sit that stuff to the side, man, I know and everybody else knows that Manny Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford is a great fight. And even though, I know that Keith Thurman wasn't all the way where Keith Thurman was, and, I can piss on the Keith Thurman fight, and really, truly, the reason why I do that is because Manny Pacquiao ducked Errol Spence Jr. to fight Keith Thurman. And he could have just went and fought Errol Spence, right? He went to the Mikey Garcia fight. He didn't fight it. So, it was this gamesmanship for Manny Pacquiao over on the Errol Spence Jr. side, but still, Manny Pacquiao is very, very much a legitimate fighter. He's got a major championship belt, and that fight between Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao should be made. It should absolutely positively be made if it can be made. If Bob Arum can actually pull that off. Do I believe, well, you're not asking me this question, but let's behave as if you're asking me the question. Do I believe that fight is going to happen? No, I do not, because I don't think Manny Pacquiao is going to fight either one of those guys, right? However, that doesn't mean, in all my efforts to be fair to Terence Crawford, that does not mean that Manny Pacquiao should not fight Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford shouldn't be pushing for that fight, because it's a huge fight. And if he beats, and when he beats, let's just be real about it, when Terence Crawford beats Manny Pacquiao, then Errol Spence Jr. and him are on an even footing, and they can go into this fight 50-50, and we can see who the best welterweight in the world is, provided Errol Spence Jr. beats Danny Garcia. If he's able to beat Danny Garcia, then I think that is just a fair thing to then take place. And it satisfies what Errol Spence Jr. was saying, which is, let me clean up my side of the street. You're over here. Terence Crawford actually cleaned up, had what he already had, and then cleaned up a corner over there on the PBC block with Manny Pacquiao. Now, what if that fight does not take place? What if I'm right and that fight does not take place? Manny Pacquiao does not fight Terence Crawford. Then after the Errol Spence Jr. fight, provided Manny Pacquiao does not fight Errol Spence Jr., then the fight should take place, should be Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, and we should see that fight. Now, we'll see what happens with Bob Arum and all this, and how, whether he stays at Top Rank or not. Right now, immediate reaction after seeing those guys is that I don't think that he's leaving, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. I hope that I was as respectful to Terence Crawford as I possibly could be in this video, and I'll try to be going forward. Because truth be told, I do believe he proved something to me in that fight. And, let's talk about that going forward. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what yours is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.